Thank you, Ilaria. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And maybe we should lead the conversation about curating from Htein Lin's presentation to talk a little bit about Vasan Sitthiket, the artist, and then launch into our particular and long relationship, which dates us both, unfortunately. Vasan is one of the first, in terms of chronology, political artists of Thailand and Southeast Asia. And my own experience of Southeast Asia coming in the middle 90s was one of incredible surprise to see how special and unique art, contemporary art, was in Southeast Asia because of its meshing of true political activism, social activism, and aesthetics or formal perspectives. This is something that I had not seen in Europe or America. I arrived from London and I grew up in Canada, so I had not seen this except art historically. I guess the last period when I had witnessed this kind of intersection between social commitment and art was probably let's say the 1930s and in Germany. The middle period between the First and the Second World War in European history, which of course is full of big political movements and great social and political tensions. And what struck me was the very contemporary language of this art from Thailand and Vasan's own practice and his real interest in using art functionally. So I think this is where we go back to Htein Lin's performance now and this understanding that life and art really are the same, and that you make art with life and use your art conversely in life. And Vasan to me was my very first encounter with contemporary art from the region and from Thailand, and the way he did it was extremely new. So I immediately wanted to meet this man, Vasan Sitthiket, whose work was on show at the National Gallery in Bangkok at this time. This was early '95, and who was using not only art as a vehicle, but was using forms that were familiar to the people. So in other words, this was not an art designed for sale in galleries, commercial galleries, etc. This was a form of art that was designed to talk directly to the people concerned with the discussions in the art. So again, something very new. This was not art for art's sake, and this was not political art for the sake of political art. It was really art designed to speak directly and fairly forcefully, to engage with the audience. And it's only then when I got to know Vasan that I realized that he was really an activist, but through art, and not in the European sense, political activists or political artists, but really was using his practice in quite a new way. And this is '95, and he was already fairly well known, interestingly enough, outside Thailand. So he had come to the attention of curators and the art historians actually in Japan by then. Even though in Thailand itself, he was still not truly recognized as an artist, because I think the Thai art establishment at that period still felt that art that had a function, a clear social mission, was not necessarily art. Some issues of positioning of ideologies, if you like, or maybe the vestiges of high modernism, European high modernism, which believes in that art should be art for art's sake. So a lot of intersections of ideas and polemics around Vasan Sitthiket. Fast forward 20 years now, nearly, and Vasan continues to have a practice that goes across all media. So he is not someone you can pigeonhole. He's made videos, he's made paintings, many paintings. Performance is very much his thing as well. He's a poet, he's also a singer. And to me, he's very important in the Thai and Southeast Asian canon because he has continued always to deal with real issues on the ground, empirically, through the art. So he never really strays off. He is an activist, and we had a slide presentation showing Vasan at demonstrations and being an activist. But that is not his work. He doesn't, that's not a performance for him, that is real activism. He makes works of art, real works of art, that are social in nature, but not to be confused. So the persona is actually complex. He also was a politician. You headed the Artist Party. You created a party in Thailand, which was a party that, if I'm not wrong, around the time when Thaksin Shinawatra was becoming very powerful, and clearly someone who was potentially going to be somewhat dangerous for Thailand, Vasan and a bunch of people formed a real political party called the Artist Party, and you were the head of that party, and you did stand for election. So again, this marriage, this very real life marriage of art and social cause, I don't like the word cause very much, the social movement. So for me, Vasan is emblematic of something that you see in Indonesia. You see this with Heridono, Harsono, Supangat in the 70s, 80s, 90s. You see that in the Philippines to a certain degree with certain artists, in Singapore with Lee Wen, Malaysia with Hoi Chong, for example. And here today in Myanmar, I think again there is a strand of artists working, young, old, who use their art functionally as a vehicle. So, having introduced Vasan, we don't have images of Vasan due to technical issues, but I'm sure if you Google him, he's very famous, you will see many, many images showing the very diverse spectrum of media and styles. I would say to you, he's not a gallery artist per se. He doesn't make art to sell, except to sustain a practice that, again, is very engaged with social ideologies. And his social ideologies do not focus exclusively on Thailand. He engages with issues globally, and I would say he's one of these rare figures, a global humanist, and he integrates big picture ideas onto the local frame and vice versa. It moves out from the local into the global. So I think this is, again, one of the typologies of Southeast Asian art in the contemporary period from the 90s onwards, is this ability to train a very local eye on local issues. And here I'm giving you this very brief synopsis and rather disjointed synopsis of what Southeast Asian art looks like in the region beyond Myanmar, is able to walk from the local and to take that into a global arena through language, through artistic language, which again tends to use a vocabulary that is extremely accessible. And it's not just accessible to Thais, but it's also accessible to regional people and to a global audience. And I think he does that quite deliberately. So in other words, the medium and the methods and the genres are selected quite consciously to communicate. So it's never art for art's sake in that sense. It's never trying to be overly clever. It's never trying to appeal to the curator or the critic. It is very much designed to talk to the immediate, wide audience. So, as a curator, if I say that his work is not geared to the curator, where does that position the curator in his discourse and in his work? And so where do I come in? And how have we structured our relationship in the last 15 years, our working relationship? Obviously, from what you've just heard, I'm very interested in Vasan's work, and I very much embrace the kinds of works that I found in Southeast Asia when I first arrived here. So it's not difficult for me to be interested and attracted to Vasan Sitthiket work. But what do I add to it? What is the point of the curator? when you have a extremely talented artist who clearly can communicate, they get their work out, they manage to disseminate their work. So what is the point of a curator working in collaboration? So the way we've set up this conversation today is that Vasan and I have this long relationship, and Htein Lin and I have no curatorial relationship. So I wanted to sort of review with Vasan in conversation how our relationship has worked, not spend too long, I think 10, 15 minutes, and then talk to Htein Lin on this side, and to talk about how potentially, if we were engaging in a curatorial relationship, the kinds of negotiations, because that's what that relationship is. It's a back and forth and an editing process and a challenging process, what that relationship could be. So hopefully by the end of all this, you'll get an idea of what curating process, or at least ours, has been, and what ours could be, and from there maybe draw your own conclusions. So it's a very empirical way. I wasn't going to give you a slide presentation about curating 101 because I think it's actually very difficult to teach, and I'm not one of these people who believes in curatorial practice taught. I believe in curatorial practice gained through experience. So on that note, Vasan,
yes.
maybe you want to tell me
I
a
want
bit.
to talk a little
Yeah.
I want to talk about my background. When I'm 16, they have student revolution when I'm 16 years old in the 1973, yes. And so in Bangkok, the student protest against the dictator at that time. Thailand revolution, no, it's changing to be democracy. Now it's 84 years ago. But we have never have a democracy because just the name and the voting is nothing, because the experience of the Thai politicians, so they know how to take over the power, how to control the people. More 150 years of the education department, but more education, but the people more idiot. Because they make the people more ignorant. So don't understand our history, don't understand our nature, because we more study, so we go too far from our root. For we look back our father and master, we no respect our roots anymore. That it's in my experience when I growing up. When student revolution, so we start to look back, and so but that time we had the Vietnam War and the Indochina War. So the ideology of the socialist is come on around, and to have Communist Party in Thailand too. And so the students after revolution, so they against America. They want to kick America out from the Asia, from the Vietnam. They use Thailand to bomb everywhere. To bomb Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. They use the base in Thailand to bomb our neighbor. But that time, many books published after revolution. The book translated into Thai about the history of Marxist, Maoist. Every book like a boom in 1 year, 2 years. And after 3 years, American and the monarchy and the military planning to kill. Someone said, if we kill Thai students, 30,000 students, so Thailand better. So they talk in the TV. Okay, we kill students, so Thailand we save like that. And so, in 6 October of 1976 is the D-Day of them. So because the dictator come back with in the monk uniform, because they run away to be living in Taiwan, in Taipei, and so they come back in the monk suit. And so in Thailand, like Burma, the Buddhism, so we cannot touch the ground, the yellow ground. It's taboo. And so he come back, and so the student again we occupy university, Thammasat University to against them, but they're planning to kill, so they start to kill two workers because we make a poster bill everywhere to against the comeback the dictator, and so at the 6th October early morning, so they kill and rape the university. Maybe we never know, but we see it at the corp, the photo, about 200 dead, and next day 5,000 of the students go to jungle, to guerrilla, Red Army guerrilla all around of Thailand, on the mountain, because they are Maoist, the Communist Party of China, the China support the Thai Communist Party, but the Vietnam is support from Russia and Laos too, and so they have complicated in the jungle too. Intellectual, the student intellectual only 18 years old, 17 years old, they run away from the town to go to living in the jungle with the farmer, the leader in the mountain and the guerrilla. And when I don't go in the jungle. I work I study art in it's called College of Fine Art. Yeah, so I organize a group of research study Marxist, and so I make money to support the party, to make everything, the band, make underground book, the publish, and to speak out in Bangkok.
I see.
And so 7 years later, and the students have a big problem because the China bomb Vietnam and Cambodia in 88 or something. No, 78. In 78, a big problem. And so they have confused in the student. And so they cannot understand what happened. Why socialists we attack each other. And so the young students come back to school. And so 5,000 come back, and many people die. Many students die in the jungle.
I see.
And so that time, some of my friends, they became NGO activists, because our problem is never changing. The farmer still poor. The worker have no organization, because like a government, capitalist and labor, every time two hands, and so labor no voice anymore. And so my friend go to work with the farmer and the student. So artist, I am an artist in school, so I organize a group to make the artist movement to support the people, because I think as artists, art can make the voice of the voiceless, because the people try to speak, art cry for justice, but no one here. And so I think I can use, and my friend can make a group and to make a movement and a demonstration with the people, with the poor, with the farmer and all the worker, and to make event, make the action in the city, in the street, everywhere we can do the action.
Yeah, so precisely. So there are many parallels between Thailand and Myanmar on that level. But the point is, in terms of this conversation, so action and popular action, real action.
Yes.
Therefore, it's not your conventional practice. It's not a practice that is a gallery practice.
Yes.
So I think for that very reason, it's something that maybe can use a certain amount of mediation, which is what a curator can provide, which is a way of actually making sure that the function of the art is taken more, is spread out and actually disseminated.
Yeah.
So maybe the nature of the kind of art that is being made, has been made now, and Thailand of course has its own story, which Vasan has narrated, and this is one episode of many, many episodes of great violence in Thai society in the last many decades, and issues with the Thai farmers, as you've described, and the workers, but many others, many other injustices that are looked at. And rather than have your artwork just made and abandoned or lost, maybe then the usefulness of the curator can come in and write and use criticism, use a certain amount of networks to get this view out, this message out.
And I have a little thing. As an artist, individual artist, my work critique my country because I want to understand why people so poor. I try to understand what happened to my country. So I try to go deep to my culture. What happened to our country? And so that in my art, with this question like this, and so my art go deep, go to find to the root of the problem. Because not only a protest, I got come to ask question to the people and ask myself too. And so my work, the curator go to watch my work in 91 before the coup in 92. It's called Inferno. I painting the hell, the modern hell in Thailand, like the sinner to be the artist have to talk a lot about Buddhism, about the Dharma, but you are the bastard, and so you have to go to in the small room and fasting and to die. And you fasting, you shooting, you fast until you die, forever, and and all the lawyer who make money from the people who don't know the law. And so you make money from the poor, and so you have to living by the thorn, and have your bond bigger like a football, and so the thorn, two men torments in hell like that, and to be a teacher, a sinner to be a teacher who like on the occupation.
Occupation, yeah.
On occupation of Thailand, I critique all. And so, and the curator, they invite me to in Sydney Biennale first time because they think to understand Thai and to look through my painting, my work like that.
To see the situation through your work.
Yes,
so,
yes.
in a way, do you think it's valuable? For example, when you invited to Sydney Biennale, reaction there. What did people see? Did they see artworks, or did they see a story brought to them by artworks?
They think because in Europe, they think art is like the content is different. They think art is creative, is different from the East. For me, art is for make people enlightenment, awake, to thinking about, to understanding ourselves, and to do something to go beyond the problem. Yes.
Yeah, there's now is a little bit is surprised, for me, because is. For me, I grew up here under the whole life is under the military regime. I grew up here. But for us, when we grow up as a time, it's the already democratic society and then like that. But now you told me a lot of things is a problem, and then also the suffering of the student, and then give you the inspiration for your work. And I'm thinking, how I have no work to explain about the situation is different, But even I thought Thailand is a quite developing country. But it's a lot of problem. For me, it's really surprised. And then also the way interesting I saw some of your work already. And then also we met in 2007 in Warsaw, in Poland. Yeah, I was also participate showing some painting. So he did it performing piece with the rice and that. So now we are talking about the relationship with the artist and creator. And may I ask a little bit more about to explain you how you found hand and start thinking to create and the exhibition and more developing with the two.
Yeah, I think there's various ideas about what curating is, and in one sense, the curator is the tool of the market, okay, or the idea of the biennale, or the platform. But I think for me, I'm the tool of the artist, and that's the way I've developed my curatorial mission or practice, is to be always the instrument of the artist, as opposed to my using the artist to instrumentalize. And so for me, I'm as attracted to Vasan's ideas in his work as to the formal side of his work. In other words, I really, really believe in what Vasan has to say about society. And I believe that art is a peaceful tool. It's a Gandhiist, it's a non-violent voice of persuasion, if you like. So the way I curate, and some curators do, I mean, I think this is one part of the curatorial field, if you like, is that I work to get these ideas across. So I do my job, which is to write critically and try and explain why the art is very important and how it ties into a bigger picture. And so for me, because I do Southeast Asia, I wanted to ask Vasan, whom I've curated in a number of solo exhibitions, but whom I've also curated in 5, I think, group exhibitions, whether he thinks there's any virtue, any strength in his art being positioned in discussion, in dialogue with other works of Southeast Asian art that effectively tackled the same problems, the same types of ideas, which is absent empowerment, absent democracy, civil rights, the idea of art as advocacy. So whether he thinks it's a good thing or maybe a neutral thing, I don't know. Is there power in numbers? Is there power in dialogue, a voice within an exhibition? Can an exhibition change things?
Yes, for me, I don't know who see my work or thinking. I writing published books of a poem, a short story, but I don't know who read it. I don't know, but it really slowly, and because I believe that if I have something to message, to give something, writing something, to make, to understand to the people reading or see my work, it's slowly. Art cannot change everything in one suddenly. It is slowly to look, because when I start more than 20 years, the Thai art society accept me because they against me as a dirty work, and they very rough, very bad art, very nothing. And so when they look, I still try to find a way, many kind of the media. I do on the media to I use many media because I have something to how to transform my idea to the people. They use the puppet, or use music, song or something. I do everything like a mix all together to make the people to simple and in complicated thing. How to understand our society more really hard to understanding, and so how can to make, I try to how to can make it simple. Like when in 95 I show, in 96, 95 I show the I love Thai culture. I asked, what is my culture? What is my culture? The culture to be tame, culture to be slave, culture to be sawadee or smile. What I ask question to Thai people and ask myself too, like 108 questionnaire for Thai people. Are you thinking we are Buddhism? Are you thinking you are the dictator must to be a policeman who kill the people, who kidnap the leader of our worker? Something I ask the question of the people. Don't remind them. Don't believe. Don't forget it. To like that. It's very simple. Like a model print. I print back and have the nail.
Very simple, but
Simple.
actually very
Simple.
new, because until then people had been making art objects. This was a direct confrontation with the audience, a direct pulling in of the audience. This is contemporary art in Southeast Asia, in my view. And Vasan is one of those people who did it first, but he did it for real reasons. It wasn't to be new. You didn't do it to be new. You did it to communicate. So is the curator an extension of that? Can the curator be a tool, in other words? Can you use the curator to extend your social discourse, is the question? Or is the curator a parasite and a hindrance and a nuisance and etc.? I think there's a real question to be asked about the role of the curator.
Yeah.
So you can definitely say yes. I sometimes wonder, indeed, just going back to your trajectory, I think about several exhibitions that you mounted without curators. Many, in fact, many.
Yes.
So I think there are curators. I think it's a real question to ask. And I know this conversation is about explaining the validity of a curator, but I don't think it's a given that a curator is that valid. So it's important to think about that.
I also want to know from him is about his opinion, because I'm working here until 2006 as an artist. We are actually at that time we have no curator. And then just we have many exhibition. There's as a group or some. Or solo, we have a solo exhibition. It is not really skillful with like a creator like that, and then now it's suddenly situation is changing, and then now this Burmese artists started realize is the role of the creator is very important. Also, I'm also very proud the son of the artist also the changing the position as a creator. For example, is recently in the festival is a Mozart is also the created the art exhibition is like that. It's and then also that's why and you and also Natalie here as working in the ground is for me is really glad. That's why from your point of view is the role of the creator, because you working very long time.
Yes.
Your understanding. Could you share, please?
Okay. I think it's in 80 after 80 they have start to kill later. But okay, the Biennale or what's documenta or something, they have a curator. They have a group of curators to make what is art in Europe, art in Venice Biennale or something. But in Thai, in Asia, so they have they start but late in after the 2005 2003 they make the Gwangju Biennale or something, and so they have the curator from Europe and something to co with the local curator. But that time the curator go to Thailand, go to everywhere in Asia, so they meet the artists, so they have the concept to sell their idea. What is to understanding? What is the point, technology and art, a new art or something? But they sell the concept of show to the money, forget money to do that. And so they know who make art in Asia and who do it. Oh, okay, I like this, okay, take like that. The same. And so I think but what is the shape eye and shape the idea? If you the wise, you can understand everything. You have the trending, and okay, you can do a good curator. Like you know, do understand Asian, and you can find the good artist to show and work. But now you can see in Indonesia, in China, after the Tiananmen, American use artists as a weapon to attack the freedom. They use artists as freedom to attack the China, and so they will come back. They balloon, good art. So make extrapolate value, and so the world move change. There are pop art in China to make influence in because of big money. Oh, high price. And in the 80s, if you remember, German expressionist, new German expressionist, very expensive. New expression, very high art, Basalit, something, high art. And so after that, it's changing, Chinese art, the new market. A new market, they moved to Indonesia. Now art is just, in 80s, I think art is, and money is married together. So they have no conceptual anymore. So the curator is the problem too. The problem of art in new art is curator for me in my. If you just make your asshole big, you make that you sell to New York, you sell to and so for me nonsense. I went to join Venice Biennale in 2003, and but very confused. I said on the rabbit here, why on the rabbit? 80% rabbit here for me. It's nothing. Art is for me is nothing at that time. And so more in nonsense art now. For me, no content, no contact with the people anymore. That is my opinion. But if we are in Asia, for me, I'm very happy. I think the one exhibition, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, T religion, like Buddhism, Muslim, and Christian, Catholic, dialogue, modern art.
This
in 95.
is modernism made by Japan Foundation. Yes, that show?
In Tokyo, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's very important thing. We try to discussion what is utopia of art, a new understanding. But I say, okay, the first time Asia talking each other.
Yeah, but precisely. So the Japanese curators recognize you before the Thai curators. In fact, before the Thai establishment. So sometimes curators can be useful. In other words, maybe maybe the outside curator can sometimes be the slave of the inside artist, and then that works. But
I think for me, art, the local art. I think the serious art and the artists who try in everywhere have the artists to want to understand ourselves, and I think the curator try to find the spirit of your country, spirit of your time. What is your time now? I think it's very important thing for me for the curator to find. To choose it.
Yeah, maybe the relativization, comparative work, maybe this business of the curator pairing artists or artworks with other artworks and creating a bigger dynamic. So you have Vasan Sitthiket vision of Thailand, but then you show Vasan with a Harry Dono or Harsono or a much younger artist from Yogyakarta and show how there is some cohesion and how the message maybe can be bigger and better and more powerful for the outside world. So maybe the value of the curator in terms of our relationship has been a sort of a taking out and up, taking you out more broadly, and to show how this message that really does relate in its first layer to Thailand actually is important for beyond Thailand. Could that be the case? I mean, yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The one is as a political artist, you know, I saw some of your work is directly criticized as a political leader, and then also the leader, and that and there's you working very long time, you know. But my question is here also sometimes is the people are confusing. We are not. It's not right to use put art in the politics. So, what do you think is art is like a weapon? And then also because as you are is well-known artist from Thailand, and then also other political organizations using your son of the image for the campaigning, and like for example T-shirt or you know, it's like that. Is this what is your opinion? Is the like a is like art is like a weapon or is
For me, the art as a weapon to destroy all idiot power. No, all idiot power is our enemy. So I think we can do all kind of art to destroy it. But I'm lucky to live in Thailand. Thailand is they think it art is just for hang decorate, and so they think art is nothing. And very few people go to see my work art, and so yeah, no problem. But if I live here, maybe 100,000 years in jail. Or if I live in Indonesia, he cut my hand because I cannot do that in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, but Thailand I can do it. But okay, they censor my work. They take all my work out, take all the wall, something, and they censor. I paid okay. They take out. I paid censor out, but they don't stop. They don't stop my show. But they take 10 painting out.
But you don't think that you deliberately use some quite playful visual language to confuse a little bit? It's not directly political sometimes. I mean, sometimes it is, sometimes it is. Play on the border of the, and I think many in Southeast Asia have been doing this, is playing with language, and you make sure the public can read it. But somehow the authorities choose not to read it. Art warfare, yeah?
I have to hit. Sometimes I play the word and hitting, like I play the game. But on most of my work, very simple and direct. But once they ban my painting because I painting the Prime Minister and I saliva on their face, and some my feet on their face like that, even hit mouth, and so I show at the Iola Lenzi Museum. So the dean said they censor 1 week, and so I said okay, don't show my painting. Okay, I make my sculpture. I make new sculpture of 49 cabinet, Prime Minister, and big sculpture 2 meters, and hang them on. But I don't hang. People go. 300 people go, and so they said I have banned already, so they go to the opening. So I pile up the figure of the cabinet, 49 cabinet, and so I said Thailand problem, all of them is the problem. So what can we do? So people hang them. Installation by the people. But
I saw that you painted the portrait of some portrait of the politician, you know, the political leader, and then also the opposing is like a quite erotic, is a naked, and you know, like that. Yes, so did you also paint like a monarchy? You allowed to touch? In Thailand?
No. Not yet.
But some of your works have pointed in that direction.
But I hidden many.
Yeah, but saying, I mean, I didn't also do the senior.
My work hidden, and if they know, and they have to killing me 100 times too. Because
it's quite dangerous.
Yeah, of course it's dangerous. But you have done.
If you want to
attack
the monarchy, you have to find a way. You have to find a way to hidden the way how to. Yeah. Okay, easy to fuck somebody. It really is simple. Easy to say. But in reality, if you tackle the untouchable, you have to know how. Yes.
Yeah, but I heard about the some artists also get in trouble about the criticize the like that kind of thing.
But they're very direct. I think in this
Really?
case, Vasan's work is somewhat not so clear when it concerns the monarchy.
I see.
But nonetheless, I think people can still read it. But if it's not very literal,
Yeah.
what can they do? And this is where art can be very powerful,
Yeah,
as you know.
exactly, yeah.
You in your practice too.
If the question is, my friend asked me, Vasan, you have to against the monarchy. I said, okay, easy to, if you want to against monarchy, it's easy. You, when they have a car, you go to buy direct, you attack his car, okay, he died and he dead on a car. Okay, I will make the monument for you, statue of your monument of bravery. If you dare to, if you just do talk underground, but what you don't do in front, you behind. I can take many friends. If you dare do that, okay, what you do now, just only gossip in the crowd. I think if you dare that, I support you. It just in Thailand the conflict now between color, but it's not color because the people in Thai politics at Thaksin regime, so they know how, because they buy the intellectual, the left intellectual, to use the mass the like a communist way, because the left come back from the jungle, so there's maybe 10 or 100 of them they support Thaksin because they want to send the children go to study in Boston, so because they pay a lot of money for that kind of the crony.
Now is we have a little bit about the relationship between two of you, and then also may I introduce some of my work, and then you see after that, and maybe think about to create something for next.
Of course, I've written about your work, so I've not curated you before, but I do know your work.
Can I? Yeah. Image is maybe we need a little bit. Yeah. Actually, it's the first is I would like to introduce one of the exhibition in 2012 Indian is a installation piece is I working with the Zasha Kola and Sumesh, Indian art creator, and that exhibition after that I start realize how is an art creator is so important. Because I met her in 2008 in London, and she came to my studio, and then I told the story about my life being in refugee camp in Indian border and on the top. So at the time, I thought is to fight armed struggle after I did 1988 military crackdown, and then I hope Indian government might be support our armed struggle revolution. So we stay in the camp, but I met these artists, and then also he joined the revolution. But the Indian government didn't support us, so we just our dream and cut the tree and then make a gun, and then we just train ourselves we got a military training in the camp. So and then he taught me the basic drawing. That's why I became artist. So it's 1988. So actually, I really. So this is installation piece is about our life. She created two artists together, and then this one is a gun tree. So after 2 years in Indian camp, I thought in China border there's a rebel group. They have a weapon. So and then I joined in guerrilla warfare. I fought 2 years in the guerrilla warfare in the Kachin state with the KIA rebel group. And armed striker is just disaster. You got to know how to survive in the jungle. But and then also we got this weapon and then start make a problem. We accuse each other as a spy, and then kill each other and torture each other. This photo was me. They said it was me and then being in torture. 36 of the students were executed. I got electric shock and my hand was my head in the water. So these there's a photo is showing there. Finally we escaped from the jungle, and then this is our surrender, the press conference. We got a surrender from the ABSDF camp, and then so this is a son of my colleague was being tortured. This photo in the 1992. And then son of them was executed among there, and then I escaped. So and then after that, I became artist, and then also one of the performing artists in Burma and early history. At that day, the photo show how related is from experience from the jungle affected to my performance. And then there's another experience I was as a comedian. So this is a sun painting related with the comedian experience. And then 1998, as already know the Zima and our conversation, they put me into the prison, and there's my name is on the letter from my old comrade to do some activity. Actually, I didn't agree. But they said that my name's on the letter. So, and then this is I really wanted to introduce this some of the work I produced in prison. At the time, I didn't want to stop my art career. So I get some paint and then painted on uniform, and using the some of the stuff from the prison. In the middle of the portrait, I did it with the syringe from prison hospital, and then also sometimes I painted myself, and then also other painting you see I painted with the wheel of the secret lighter, and I really wanted to tell this government. You only lock me up. You could not lock my credibility. That's why I did this one on the uniform and get off. So, and then I continue to produce being in prison. My understanding of the artist freedom, sometime before that, a military regime is hold the freedom of the art, the censor board. That's why we have no freedom. But in being in prison and being in solitary confinement, I cut out outside world. I have no market. I just produce myself. So and then I found really shocking. This freedom is not really connected with the situation and institution. It's inside. It's like that. So that's why. And then another painting is I did it in the cell about my family visit. I have a 1.5-year daughter and came visit like that. But in the prison, I have no loss of pay. I just get some from prison guard. So that's why I use thinking less painting and good the continued. And then I covering the soap block, and then ICRC International Red Cross visited to 1999. I met him, so I asked. I have a little sculpture, the soap from the prison. It tell the story about how we were facing the solitary confinement. He shouted, "No! We are coming and counseling, and we didn't." Take anything. So, but he opened the bag. So I realized, oh my God! So I put it there in his bed. So and then now they took and showing the ICRC museum. So little piece, small piece, and then of course, they beat us and then sent to other prisons. I was in the death row with the death penalty prisoner, and 10 of the death penalty prisoners, they are murder and rape and robber, and they like that. But they are, waiting for the death sentence. But they share their uniform. This is there's a longi, the longi of the death penalty prisoner. He gave me his uniform, and then I painted on it, and then I painted with my hand, like a monotype technique, and then print. It's like a criminal prisoner returned from hard labor camp. It's like a killing fee. So that's why criminal prisoner, if you don't want, you have to pay a lot of money. So if you cannot pay some money, they chosen this way, they just cut out their finger. They just cut off. So this is the way of their surviving, being in prison. So that's why I met many prisoners. It's called Mr. 7 and Six Finger and Mr. 9. But they told me story very happily. I make a right decision. So, and then that's why I survive here. All of my friends, they die like that. And then next, and then of course they have to wait the food for their meal like that. So, and then not enough, so that's why they are really skinny. And then, there's a artist, Choi, they also, and she's now in New York. She also started, one of the artists started realize how art creating is important in Burma. This one is after I released from prison, and then she came to my little house and she saw all the painting from the prison. She said that, oh my God, I really wanted to, you should do the exhibition, and she just managing, I just follow her idea, and then we invite the former political prisoner and then sit, and then there's a performance piece. This is the day I released from prison, and end of the 2004, and then I continued working. So for me, this is a kind of the art is about the 1988. I became a student leader, and also lots of student case. So Memorial Day of the 1988. So that's why for me, art is just share my experience. So Saffron Revolution came at the time. I was in London. So, and then all my colleagues arrested and put back into the prison, and then long sentence, like more than 60. I could not do anything. So I really said I feel really guilty, and then I started think about one of the series Saffron Revolution. It's like that, and then also performance piece. I think I also did in Oxford. You saw the monk is doing the Saffron Revolution. For me, it's a very important happening in Burma, and then also Nagit cyclone hit the Burma, and I reflected. I'm not fighting with the art for situation, but I reflected. About the experience and my feeling and my opinion of these country. And then this performance piece is about my experience from interrogation camp. It's how it's the dignity of the human being. It's like that. It's like that. And after that, maybe we can.
Yeah, thank you.
My heaven was broken, so and then I keep the sculpture, plaster, and make a sculpture like that. And then internal bleeding, I have to swallow the capsule with the camera. These camera take 2 frames per second, and then I download it, and then I use it these work. But maybe we. Continue.
Yeah, I think maybe this presentation is a moment for me to ask a question to the audience, which is, we have 2 examples of artists, respectively from Thailand and Myanmar, whose whole practice is to do with politics and social change and protest, contestation. So my question is, in the day of the market and globalization, even in Myanmar now, Myanmar is open, has been open for several years, open for business. So art as a commodity, which it was the case already in Thailand many years ago and is now the case here, how do artists who are using their practice very much as an instrument, as a tool, art warfare was what we discussed earlier, how can you use the curator to protect you, to use the market so that you are not used by the market? So that's one question to you both, but also I wanted to see because we're going to end quite soon, and we're going to end, as we open with Htein Lin's performance, we're going to end the session with Vasan Sitthiket performance. So I think just a few more minutes of back and forth on this question of how you would use a curator to make sure that your practice is not subverted by the market, not taken over, how your work in effect stays on message and isn't you, because it's very easy, it's very fashionable now. Political art is, I heard from Fumio Nanjo a few years ago that it was passé, but it seems it's no longer passé, it's back again. This was in 2006, first Singapore Biennale. He said that most of the works in the Biennale were not about politics, and I said, how come? Because in Southeast Asia, all the 90s and up until now, he said, no, this is finished, but seemingly it's not finished, and in fact it's quite trendy now, political art. So how do you defend the idealism of your work and the vision of your work and the focus of your work? How do you defend it from being obscured or taken over or used by the market? Can you use a curator to help you do that? That's the first question to you both. And then I would, at this point, like to open the floor to questions, general questions about all the things that have been discussed, because I think there's a good audience here, and I think all of us here at the front would love to hear from the audience about ideas, questions, comments, etc. So is a curator useful to you, Vasan Sitthiket and Htein Lin, to keep on message, if you like?
It's yeah, you know, there's honestly is we are closed society, and that's why for me is working until I left this country. I didn't know how the important of the role of the art curator. After I left, and then of course many exhibition in UK, and then there's a really good art curator as they are creating in different way, and then start realize, and then start also being keep in touch with the art creator, started working with them. And so for me, it's art creator give us also to develop our creativity, to continue. Let me share the one of my experience working under the art creator. She came, like I told you, 2008, and then for her MA paper, and then we met. So, and then I had one of the story written in Burmese about special code, how they put us into the prison in justice way. And then this is a short story, I wrote it, and also, and then she had an idea to translate, to publish, and then she translate in English. After that, And then the exhibition in Cochin Biennale, and then she found a spade. And she kept asking me many things to create that kind of artwork from this story, you know. For me, you know.
So exactly, pushing you, challenging you, editing you.
And then arguing a lot.
Arguing a lot, yeah, that's what we do.
Because, you know, I was really, you know, I mean, I really, being in 7 years in prison, and there's about the lots of piece of work, uniform. So I really thought, oh, this is the best one of my period. I really want, if I have a chance, I want to create something related with this one. But she kept push me again and again to create.
You know what they say? They say the best curators are failed artists. So maybe that's, you know, I mean, that's a funny way of looking at it. But maybe curators can be creative.
Yeah.
And if you can get along with the curator,
yeah,
then you can probably use it to develop the work.
And then finally, after long conversation and on Skype, and then I decided, okay, I give a promise. I will create one piece of installation piece about this experience. So, and then I will, there's some kind of, keep going, image. So, and then I have a room, and then I decorated is, because of this is also, the coach is not real. They decorated near the prison. So that's why I saying decorated. In the video, I just talking about the day, how atmosphere. And then it's like that. But the one thing I asked her to challenge, okay, could you find the old typewriter? So, and then because of other day from my experience, it's the lady is follow us with the typewriter, and then whatever we said at the in the code. So that's why I said typewriter, and then in the exhibition I put it on the table. I asked all the audience came and then seeing the video and everything. After that, I asked audience to type justice, the word of the justice. But I changed the lever of the typewriter, so people type the justice. Is the word is outrage. It came out. So this is I really pleased, and then also she helped me a lot to find the expert of the typewriter to change the lever. So this one is for me is business. It's real helping from the art creator.
Sure. Okay, and Vasan, what do you think? What's the point for you? I mean, this idea of the curator, some editing, challenging, arguing, disagreeing, assistant, technical assistant, material assistant, ideas even.
Yes, I think. I think it's the egg of curator now. So they try to find the way to understand our all around the world, not only but in Asia and in we know very few about Africa. We know very few about Latin America. In Asia we know very less too. And so for me, if artists in Asia to communicate and this discussion or come together so we can understand each other, because we never learn about Asia. In my experience, I learned a lot about the Western art, because in art school like that, I learned very little, very few about my art in Thai art like that in all Asia. I am know nothing. But I travel and I met the artists and I met the so I think it's very important thing that how can we make the network and to come together, and so the curator it's important to work together with artists. It's possible.
Great. So at this point, before we launch into Vasan's performance, I think we should do a Q&A if there's any questions from the floor for any of us. And then we'll finish off with Vasan in giving us a new piece of art.
And recent year, after the change the dictatorship, some curator visit to the Myanmar, but I see that most of them are like a shopping curator. So they shop, they come and pick up the artists and they go with just only stay a few days. So not more than a week. So, but I'm asking you, Lola, so do you think that the curator should do like that shopping, or the curator have to be research a lot and need to know about the context of the Myanmar? Most of the curator I met them, they just only didn't understand the context of the Myanmar.
There's a technical word for that. They're called instant noodle curators. Okay. Meaning it's very fast, it's very instant, and it's not too delicious. It's just quick and easy. So instant noodle clay. Of course, this is the double-edged sword. What happens in Myanmar now is that Myanmar, as you know, is hot. Okay, so it's fashionable, and fashion is a big problem in art because fashions come and then they go. So it's dangerous. It's really dangerous, especially for an art scene that's quite young. I talk about the art scene being young, not the work being young, okay? Those two things are very different. And indeed, this whole conversation, this weekend and several weekends conversation are about, to a certain extent, introspective within Myanmar. They're about looking at the Myanmar art scene from within and from one outside. So personally, of course, for me, the whole point of art in Southeast Asia is the context. My whole practice has been developed based on the context. For me, the art of Southeast Asia is interesting because it is about the context. So if I didn't know about the context, the art wouldn't make sense to me. So there are different levels of reading of artwork. So I think those curators are still looking at the artwork as an object. And what they're interested in is the label, the Myanmar label attached to it. And they're already, the instant noodle curators are already better than some other curators who just used old Biennale catalogs and look through and pick. And that's also another technique of curating. So I think you have to be careful. There are many curators who will come here, though, and who will do their research and who have done their reading. And they don't know because they're from the outside. I'm from the outside. I don't know. But I respect the culture, and I want to know about the culture, and I want to know about the context, and I do my reading. And many, many curators are like me. So I think I think each artist has to choose. And the good news is everyone's a curator these days. So there are many, many, many people to choose from in the field, okay? I hardly know anyone who's not a curator now. I think it's clearly you know the game, and you're an artist and a curator, so you're in a very privileged position actually to pick and choose. And in fact, Southeast Asia is, from my experience, quite unique in that sense. There are many, many artist curators. Chun Long I can think of in Hanoi. Mela Jarsma is another. In Singapore, Lee Wen is an artist. Tam Go, you know, from Esplanade, who is also a curator and an artist. And I think that is quite typical of Southeast Asia because of the lack of art infrastructure and systems. And in a way, that's a great wealth, I think. I think it's been one of the reasons that art in Southeast Asia has been so great in the last 20 years is that artists have worn many, many hats, as you do. So yeah, what I think of that is it's not great, but of course you can pick. There are many people coming. further questions? No? For Htein Lin, for Vasan Sitthiket?
What about, so now you are in Burma, so also other creator and new, it's last 2 years, the society start opened it. It's for the, it's called, for, from your point of view, art is called art institution. What is we need in that ground? Because now it's also so some artists studying from abroad and came back, and then also some foreigner and decided to work in here. So lots of happening here, including these contemporary dialogue is like that. Is I just from your view.
Your question is about what institutions are necessary. Listen, I think diversity is the key, and inclusion. Okay. Often around Southeast Asia, if you look in the last 10, 20, 30 years, okay, maybe the first scene to develop in terms of outsider view was Indonesia. But Indonesia still doesn't have institutions. Conversely, Singapore has institutions. It has really strong rich institutions. I think you have to not confuse rich and strong, meaning a great museum system does not mean great support for art and artists. I think the real backbone of a good system, of a good supportive system of artists is, first of all, an ecosystem that is very balanced. So galleries that sell art, collectives that are more about idea storming, museum interest from around the world and coming in, so an opening up and a receiving of curators, but also collaboration within the scene. One of the most successful scenes and the most productive art scenes in Southeast Asia historically is Yogyakarta in Indonesia, in Java. It's an old enclave of new art. And I think one of the keys to the success of the Jogja art scene is a certain amount of artist support within the community. So we were talking about this earlier with Vasan, and individualism and artists going off and competing with other artists and, you know, trying to muscle in on the latest curator in town and trying to block other artists from this, to my mind, is a big problem. And ultimately, an art scene will self-destruct quite quickly under that kind of competitive pressure from within. It's very important when you have a new scene, and again, new not in terms of the artworks, but in terms of exposure. I think it's very important to draw a difference. I think Myanmar has been there's been contemporary art in Myanmar for many years. I think of Ong Mien, who's one of the pioneer artists who's crossed back and forth from modernism to contemporary, back and forth. To me, he's a very key figure on the scene because many years before it was fashionable to even talk about contemporary art, he was making it and using it as a vehicle of voice. So I see scenes that are very fragmented and where there's a great deal of fairly violent, psychologically violent factionalism is dangerous because you make yourselves vulnerable to the outside and to forces of money and all sorts of things. So I think the main institution of an art scene isn't a museum and it's not government money. It's a certain attitude of collaboration, cooperation with the locals who are doing things for you, wherever they're from. You know, again, I think very dangerous to talk about foreigners and we don't like this and we exclude X and we exclude Y. I would say, for me, from what I've seen in the last 20 years, empirically, the best scenes are organically and collaboratively grown. Yeah. I think so. No, not in Singapore. Definitely not. Singapore has museums, a lot of museums. But the museums have not grown organically. They have grown from the top down. In other words, they are to do with a government ambition. Government ambitions and artist ambitions very seldom coincide, actually. So I would say to be very careful about that kind of institutionalization. I don't know. I mean, it's a big question. It's a very important question. And Myanmar, of course, Burma is at a stage now where this question is clearly important to ask. Maybe there's someone in the floor who has a response. I mean, someone like Natalie who's trying to build new institutions. A number of people here in the room I see are people involved in the art world and who are parts of that art. I think every part is the institution. I think that's the key. I think the idea that you have a documenta or a biennale and that these institutions are very important, I would say ultimately you need a production before you have a sustainable art system, and the production happens when people don't spend a lot of their energy killing other people. Production happens when people actually do the work. So it's a short answer, maybe.